For 30 years, I told myself I was a good man. And maybe I was. But good men can do terrible things when they're afraid. My name is Robert Earl Calloway. I was a captain in the United States Army. I served in Desert Storm. I came home with commendations, promotions, and a chest full of ribbons. And I came home to a boy who had stopped waiting for me. He was 9 years old, and I didn't notice. Fort Hood, Texas, summer of 1988. My boy was 6 when we got the first transfer. He had just learned to ride his bike. No training wheels, 3 days before the moving truck came. He cried the whole way to Texas, not because he was scared, because he had to leave the bike behind. We couldn't fit it. I told him we'd get a new one. We never did. See, that's the thing about a military career. You don't abandon your family all at once. You do it in small decisions. You miss the recital because there's a briefing. You skip the baseball game because there's a field exercise. You take the promotion knowing it means another year away, but you tell yourself it's for them, for their future, for their security. I believed that. For a long time, I genuinely believed that. When Desert Storm broke out in January of '91, James was 9 years old. I volunteered for the deployment before my wife could say a word. That night at dinner, she didn't cry. She just looked at me across the table and said, very quietly, "Robert, he's going to remember this." I told her he'd be proud. I was wrong about that too. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been so certain you were doing the right thing, so absolutely sure, that you didn't stop to ask the people you loved if they agreed? Because that's not a soldier's problem, that's a human problem. This channel, American Heartbeat, exists for stories like this one, not stories of perfect men, stories of real ones. Men and women who fell, who failed, and who found their way back through the only things that ever actually work: faith, honesty, and the stubborn refusal to let the last chapter be the worst one. If that means something to you, follow this channel right now, not for the numbers, but because stories like Robert's deserve a home. And so do you. My wife was there at the airport. She had a sign. She was crying. James was there too. He was holding the sign. He had made it himself. Red and blue marker, "Welcome home, Dad," with a drawing of a soldier that looked more like a rectangle with boots. He was 9 years old and he had made me a sign. And when I picked him up, when I finally held him, he didn't hug me back. Not really. His arms went up, but his body stayed still. I told myself he was just shy. Kids get shy. That's what I told myself. The Bronze Star came 4 months later. There was a ceremony at Fort Hood. My CO gave a speech about courage under fire. My wife took pictures. James sat in the second row in his little clip-on tie, and when they pinned the medal on my chest, I looked out at him. I was looking for pride. He was looking at his shoes. He was 9 years old and he had already learned that looking at your shoes hurts less than looking at someone who keeps leaving. The next transfer came 8 months after that. Germany. I took it. My wife stopped arguing by then. She just packed. James was 13 when he finally said it out loud. We were in the kitchen, Frankfurt, 1995, and I'd just told him I'd miss his 8th grade graduation because of a training exercise in Grafenwöhr. He put down his fork. He looked at me, and he said, very calm, very quiet, too quiet for a 13-year-old, and he said, "Dad, you're never going to stop, are you?" I said, "Stop what, son?" He picked his fork back up. He never answered, and I didn't push. That was the worst thing I ever did, worse than any of the leaving. I let that question die at the dinner table because answering it would have cost me something. James graduated without me. He went to college without calling. By the time I retired, full colonel, 28 years of service, more ribbons than I could name, my son and I spoke twice a year. Thanksgiving. And his birthday, if I remembered the time zone. I retired in 2004. The ceremony was beautiful. My CO said I was the kind of officer the Army was built on. I drove home alone. My wife had left in 2001. Quietly. No drama. Just a Tuesday morning when I came downstairs and there was a note on the kitchen table and her car was gone from the driveway. I sat in that house for 3 months. And one night, a Wednesday, I remember because the garbage trucks had just come, I got in my truck and I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up in the parking lot of a Baptist church on Route 9 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. 11 o'clock at night. The lights were off inside. I sat there for a long time. And then I said it out loud. First time I'd said anything out loud in weeks. I said, "Lord, I was so sure I was doing it right. I was so sure. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it can be fixed. But I'm done pretending I was right. I'm done." I wasn't expecting an answer, but that night, for the first time in years, I slept. The first thing I did was write a letter. Not an email, a letter. 7 pages, legal pad, 3 drafts. I didn't explain myself. I didn't list reasons. Reasons were what I always had. Reasons were the whole problem. I just wrote down every moment I remembered missing, every recital, every game, every dinner where I looked at my phone instead of at him. Every time he needed an answer and I gave him a silence, I wrote, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not writing for that. I'm writing because you deserve to know that I see it now. I see all of it. And I'm sorry, James, I am so sorry." He didn't respond for 6 weeks. And then one morning my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize, he'd changed it. I answered. There was a pause. And then, "Dad." Just that, just, "Dad." I couldn't speak for a moment. He said, "I got your letter." I said, "I know it doesn't." He said, "Can we meet somewhere, just somewhere?" We met at a Cracker Barrel off I-95 in South Carolina, halfway between my house and his. He was 34 years old. He had his mother's eyes and my jaw and a handshake that was too careful, the handshake of a man who hasn't decided yet how much to let in. We talked for 4 hours. He cried once, I cried twice. We ordered coffee 3 times and never touched the food. He told me things I didn't know. He told me about the teacher in 7th grade who became the father figure he needed and how that made him feel guilty, like he was betraying me. He told me about his wedding. Yes, he was married. I didn't know. And how he had stood at the altar and thought about whether to invite me and decided he couldn't risk the hurt of me not showing up. He had protected himself from me by making me absent before I had the chance to be. When I heard that, I understood everything. I had taught him that. I had taught my son that the safest thing to do with the people you love is to leave them before they leave you. I sat with that for a long time. Then he said something I'll carry until I die. He said, "I don't want to do this anymore, Dad. I'm tired of being angry at a ghost. You're here. You're actually here. So let's try. Let's just try." That was 11 years ago. James and I talk every week now. Tuesdays usually. He has 2 kids, my grandchildren, a boy and a girl. The girl is 7 and she calls me Pop Pop and she thinks I hung the moon. She doesn't know I almost never made it to her life. Last Thanksgiving, James asked me to say grace. I held that bronze star in my hand that morning, this half-ounce of bronze, and I thought about everything it cost. The career it built, the family it nearly destroyed, and I thought, a medal doesn't make you a hero. What you do when you come home, that's what makes you a hero. I'm not telling you this story because it has a happy ending. I'm telling you this story because somewhere out there, right now, there's a father who's choosing the promotion over the recital. There's a man who's been so focused on being strong that he forgot to be present. There's a son who stopped calling because calling hurts too much. It is not too late. That is the American promise that no medal, no rank, no failure can take from you. It is never too late to come home. If this story reached something in you today, leave one word in the comments, home. Because that's what we're all trying to get back to. God bless you and God bless America.